Epidemic is a big word to throw around, but we are living during the time of COVID-19, a pandemic which has swept its way across the world, closing borders and isolating people in their homes. It's a scary time, but the world has conquered this type of outbreak before and overcome the odds. So today on Top 5 Scary Videos, I'm going to be counting down our list of the top 5 scariest epidemics in world history. Once again, you will notice I'm not at the studio, but I am recording from home in my own self-isolation. But don't worry guys, we will be back to normal videos very soon. Don't fret. Before we begin though, be sure to stick around until the end of the video where I'll be responding to some of your comments. And with that, let's jump in. Coming in at number 5, cholera. Cholera is an infection of the small intestine by some strains of the bacterium Vibrio cholerae. Symptoms may range from none to mild to severe. The classic symptom is large amounts of watery diarrhea that lasts a few days. Vomiting and muscle cramps may also occur. Diarrhea can be so severe that it leads within hours to severe dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. This may result in sunken eyes, cold skin, decreased skin elasticity, and wrinkling of the hands and feet. Now, cholera is caused by a number of types of Vibrio cholerae, with some types producing more severe diseases than others. It is spread mostly by unsafe water and unsafe food that has been contaminated with human feces containing the bacteria. Humans are the only animal affected. Of course, it sucks for us. Since the infection became widespread in the 19th century, cholera has killed tens of millions of people. In Russia alone, between 1847 and 1851, more than 1 million people perished of the disease. It killed 150,000 Americans during the second pandemic, and between 1900 and 1920, perhaps 8 million people died of cholera in India. Cholera affects an estimated 3 to 5 million people worldwide and causes 28,800 to 130,000 deaths a year. Although it is classified as a pandemic as of 2010, it is now considered rare in the developed world. Coming in at number 4, the Plague of Justinian. Not many people will have heard of this one. I certainly hadn't heard of it until this list. The Plague of Justinian, with recurrences until 750, was a pandemic that afflicted the Eastern Roman Empire, and especially its capital Constantinople, as well as the Sasanian Empire and port cities around the entire Mediterranean Sea, as merchant ships harbored rats that carried fleas infected with plague. Now, some historians believe the Plague of Justinian was one of the deadliest pandemics in history, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 25 to 50 million people during 2 centuries of recurrence. The plague's social and cultural impact has been compared to that of the Black Death, which we will touch on later, but research published in 2019 argued that the plague's death toll and social effects have been exaggerated. The plague returned periodically until the 18th century. The waves of disease had a major effect on the subsequent course of European history. Modern historians named the plague after Justinian I, who was emperor at the time of the initial outbreak. He himself contracted the disease but survived. Lucky for him. Coming in at number 3, HIV and AIDS. Human immunodeficiency virus infection and acquired immune deficiency syndrome is a spectrum of conditions caused by infection with the human immunodeficiency virus, HIV. Following initial infection, a person may not notice symptoms or may even experience a brief period of flu-like illness. Typically, this is followed by a prolonged period with no symptoms at all. If the infection progresses, it interferes more with the immune system, increasing the risk of developing common infections such as tuberculosis, as well as other infections and tumors, which are otherwise rare in people who have normal immune function. These late symptoms are referred to as AIDS. This stage is also associated with unintended weight loss. Now, HIV is primarily spread through unprotected sex, contaminated blood transfusions, hypodermic needles, and from mother to child during pregnancy, delivery, or even breastfeeding. There is no cure or vaccine. However, antiretroviral treatment can slow the course of the disease and may lead to a near normal life expectancy. AIDS was first clinically reported on June 5, 1981, with 5 cases in the United States. The initial cases were a cluster of injecting drug users and homosexual men before rapidly spreading. Both HIV-1 and HIV-2 are believed to have originated in non-human primates in West Central Africa and were transferred to humans in the early 20th century. In 2018, about 37.9 million people were living with HIV, with it resulting in 770,000 deaths. Between the time that AIDS was identified and 2018, the disease resulted in an estimated 32 million deaths worldwide. HIV/AIDS is considered a pandemic. Coming in at number 2, the 1918 Spanish flu. The 1918 influenza pandemic, colloquially known as the Spanish flu, was an unusually deadly influenza pandemic, the first of the two pandemics involving H1N1 influenza virus, with the second being the swine flu in 2009. The Spanish flu went on to infect around 500 million people around the world, or about 27% of the population at the time. It is said that when an infected person sneezes or coughs, more than 500,000 virus particles can spread to those nearby. So saying that, the close quarters and massive troop movements of World War I hastened the pandemic and probably both increased transmission and augmented mutation. Not to mention the war also increased the lethality of the virus. Some even speculate that the soldiers' immune systems were weakened by malnourishment, as well as the stresses of combat. The second wave of the 1980 pandemic was much deadlier than the first. The first wave had resembled typical flu epidemics. Those most at risk were the sick and elderly, while younger, healthier people recovered easily. Sounds familiar. By August, when the second wave began in France, Sierra Leone, and the United States, the virus had mutated to a much deadlier form. October 1918 was the deadliest month of the whole pandemic. The death toll is estimated to have been anywhere between 17 million to 50 million, and possibly as high as 100 million, making it one of the deadliest epidemics in human history. And finally, coming in at number 1, the Black Death. The Black Death, also known as the pestilence, Great Bubonic Plague, the Great Plague, or simply the Plague, was one of the most devastating pandemics in human history, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia, peaking in Europe from 1347 to 1351. What was believed to be the cause was the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which results in several forms of plague, including septicemic, pneumonic, and the most common, bubonic. Now, the Black Death was the first major European outbreak of plague and the second plague pandemic in the world. It created a number of religious, social, and economic upheavals, with profound effects on the course of European history. Now, it was believed to have originated in Central or East Asia, from where it traveled along the Silk Road, reaching Crimea by 1343. From this point, it was most likely carried by fleas living on the back of rats that traveled on Genoese merchant ships, spreading throughout the Mediterranean basin, reaching the rest of Europe via the Italian peninsula. Sounding very familiar right about now. From Italy, the disease spread northwest across Europe, striking France, Spain, Portugal, and England by June 1348, then spread east and north through Germany, Scotland, and Scandinavia from 1348 to 1350. Contemporary accounts of the plague are often varied or imprecise. The most commonly noted symptom was the appearance of buboes in the groin, the neck, and armpits, which oozed pus and bled when opened. The Black Death is estimated to have killed 30% to 60% of Europe's population. In total, the plague may have reduced the world population from an estimated 475 million to 350 million in the 14th century. It ultimately took 200 years for Europe's population to recover to its previous levels, and some regions like Florence only recovered by the 19th century. Well, there we have it. Do you guys agree with our list? Were there any epidemics that we missed? Leave us all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below. Before I go though, I just want to respond to a few comments from one of our last videos. Top 5 scary games you shouldn't play at 3 AM. Crucix Angel said, "Is there a game to summon Lucy at 3 AM? Asking for a friend." Well, I should tell you, Crucix Angel, you would not want to summon me at 3 AM. I would be very tired and cranky. Chris Stokes said, "Lucy, do you like vegan souls as much as virgin souls? And do they taste different? Keep up the excellent work. I have no time for either of those souls. I'm here just for the dark souls." Celine the Mean said, "Why do I always watch your videos before bed? I honestly question my thought process. Great video though. Our videos are meant to be watched before bed. We want to keep you up at night, having nightmares for the rest of your life." Chris Nunn said, "I would not play any game with Lucy. You would be sucked into hell or sacrificed to Lucifer." Hey now, don't spoil the fun. And on that note, if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a big thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another scary vid. And until next time, see you later.